French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot has left Lebanon. Is in Israel this Friday. His visit aimed at trying to secure ceasefire talks in Lebanon. France has offered to host negotiations. For more, let's cross to a correspondent in Jerusalem and speak to Noga Tarnopolsky. Hello to you, Noga. We heard from Jean-Noel Barrot earlier. Tell us a little bit about what he said.
That's right. Jean-Noel Barrot is actually presenting a pretty nuanced French position. In other words, France continues to oppose the war in Iran, opposes U.S. and Israeli actions. In this respect, it believes the war is illegal. Nonetheless, it is not denying the impact of both Iran and Iran's local proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah. So Jean-Noel Barrot condemned Hezbollah and issued a very strong declaration of support for the Lebanese government, really emphasizing a kind of backbone that France is giving the Lebanese government, plus more than 20 or 23 million euros worth of aid that he committed to, some of which, as I understand, has already arrived in Lebanon. France is trying to remain relevant and important in this region, even as it opposes this war. So it is calling for a de-escalation of the war. It is supporting Israel's right to self-defense. And it continues to, Jean-Noel Barrot emphasized that France continues to offer its services as a mediator for something unprecedented, for direct talks between the Lebanese government and the Israeli government, something has never occurred in the entire history of these two countries. Implicit in his remarks is that the Lebanese government has accepted this offer and that the Israeli government hasn't. He didn't say so directly, but that's what we understand. It's also what we understand from the comments made by his Israeli peer, Gideon Sa'ar, the foreign minister of Israel, who issued a long tweet, a long statement about his meeting with Jean-Noel Barrot, the main thrust of which is that the government of Lebanon hasn't yet done enough to disarm Hezbollah. One of the conditions of the November 2024 ceasefire agreement on the border between Lebanon and Israel.
Tightrope that France is trying to walk. How have Israeli officials been reacting to France's position throughout this war?
I have to say that rather dismissively. The Minister of Culture, whose job obviously is irrelevant to diplomacy, but who is very close to the Prime Minister, 2 days ago basically said on the radio, no one listens to France. But the truth, I believe, is more complicated, among other reasons, because the United States also does not want a major conflagration in Lebanon, even if it is not involved. So there does appear to be some international pressure on Israel, at least to pretend that it is engaged in some kind of discussions with the government of Lebanon, obviously not with Hezbollah, an Iranian-supported terror group, but with the government of Lebanon. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu has appointed a shadowy figure, his right-hand man, Ron Dermer, a former ambassador to the United States who currently holds no official position. He's appointed him to handle these talks if they're taking place. We know he was in Saudi Arabia a few days ago to discuss the Lebanese question. And we also know that the United States does expect from Israel a certain limit to its actions in Lebanon. The United States does not want to see a bloodbath, exactly what the French foreign minister was just warning about. So it is a tightrope not only for Barrot, but also for Israel, that has to both assure its people, the Israeli people, certainly the residents of the north, who are under a non-stop barrage of missiles by Hezbollah and from Iran in the last week, that it is doing everything in its power to push away Hezbollah, at the same time trying to assure the United States and European allies that it's not going to permit a massacre of Lebanese civilians or the complete destruction of Lebanese infrastructure. I want to point out one thing we saw yesterday. Israel announced that it had destroyed 2 bridges over the Litani River. This is something Israel has never before done. It has never before destroyed national infrastructure. The Israeli defense minister said this was to prevent Hezbollah from bringing reinforcements down south. But in reality, this was met with some opposition, even from right-wing figures in Israel, like Netanyahu's former national security advisor, retired General Yaakov Amidror. And these are just 2 bridges out of about 10 crossing the Litani. So it's unclear to what extent Israel is indicating symbolically that it could invade all of southern Lebanon, or to what extent this is an unannounced complete invasion of southern Lebanon. We're going to have to keep a close eye on what is happening in the next few days.